Okay, today we're going to be doing our polymer clay sculpture unit. First thing you need to do is get your pack of polymer clay for your table. You'll share it with the people at your table, and then we're going to get a piece of masking tape and write your name on it so you remember that it's yours. When putting your clay away, slide it into the box and put it inside the 6th grade drawer. Your towelette, I would like you to also put that inside the drawer. And if you pull out yours and it's dry like this one, just take it to the sink and get a little bit wet so you can reuse it time and time again. You don't need to take a new towel each time, otherwise we start draining my towels too quickly. Okay, before you start watching the video on how to construct a Minion, this is the Minion you're going to be watching me build. This was my first attempt. It was supposed to be Kevin, but it turned into Stuart. This was my second attempt, and there's a lot of things I like about my second one that I want to let you know about right now, so that you can make some changes as you're building. The reason why I made the feet on this first one so large is that it's for stability, right? There's a lot of weight of clay up here, and I made them larger so it would support the weight a bit better. But I do put wire through the feet, so I tried with smaller feet, which is more accurate to the Minion's body. My concern is the balance would be wrong, but with the wire in there, it seems to be standing okay. All right, so if you want to have big feet and do that during the video, that's great, but if you'd want to change it to be a little bit more accurate like this, you can give that a try as well. And while watching the video, you'll see how to shape the feet. Just do it in a smaller proportion. The second change that I made was to the mouth. In the video, you're going to watch how I build more of a complex mouth. Something simpler to me seems to be working better overall as the effect. There are some simple smiles here. I try to do a mouth like that, which was just a little bit too complex. So I think keep it simple. It'll be a bit faster as well. The last thing I would want to point out to you is the thickness of the goggle. This is easier to do and easier to control, and I think it worked out better. It's thicker, it makes the Minion a little bit more cute. I've changed the size of the highlight to be a bit smaller in proportion, where this one was just a bit too large. So I just think the overall effect on there is better. And the hair here, because it was so much handling, it got a little bit ruined, so you do have to kind of be careful when you're handling that, and don't smudge it around. So we'll take some shots here of these two Minions, and then you can start the tutorial video on how to make yours. Okay, today's unit we're going to build a Minion. You are welcome to do a yellow Minion. This was my attempt at Bob. And you might want to print off a picture to use as your reference, or just have something online on your laptops to use as a reference. Some of the tools you may want to use, definitely you're going to need a cutter tool and maybe something for detailing and a rolling tool, but you can share these tools with your students at your table. And you may need a paper clip, but it's something optional. You can decide that later. And you might need some safety glasses if you use a paper clip, because you're going to be cutting it. All right, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the body. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to open up our package. Get your yellow package, open it up, and all you're going to need for your Minion is just 1/4. You take your cutting knife, make sure you have a towel, because you're going to need to keep your hands clean. Keep your hands clean and your tools clean, okay? So let's give that a cut. There's a line there already for you. Putting pressure on the tool so you don't break it, okay? And you give the rest of the parts to your partner, or put it back if you don't have a partner. Now it's time to take this. I like to mush it into a ball, roll it in my hands. And because a Minion is more of an oval, I'm going to take this and kind of just compress it. Now I just made Bob, and Bob is kind of more short and a bit more chubby. And we're going to try to make Kevin, who's a bit taller, okay? So I'm going to squish this even up a little bit more, make him a bit taller. I know it doesn't look much like Kevin right now, but it will once we add some details. The next step we need to do is take some blue and mix it with some white so we match the color of their coveralls. Again, clean off your tool so you don't get yellow when you're cutting. Cut off 1/4 of the blue and then cut that in half. wipe your tool. One thing I forgot to mention is you should be working on top of a piece of copy paper. You should have this sheet from our other unit when we're painting flowers, so you could use that in your workbook. So you have equal amounts of white and blue, and all we're going to do is we're going to blend them together. Okay, I think that's probably good enough. I'll roll that into a ball. Now what I'm going to do, first of all, look at my hands are covered in blue, so let's give those a wipe. Give my tool a bit of a wipe while I'm at it. Okay, so now I take a section of this, it almost looks like my yellow body, and we're just going to take about a quarter like this. We'll need this for later. And again, you can share that with your partner. Again, I like to make a ball. It does not have to be perfect, just sort of like that, because what we're going to do is we're going to take our finger and we're going to press that down. This is going to be Kevin's first part of his coveralls. Can you see this part right here is what we just represented right there. It's not the flat part we're going to create next. For the flat part, let's cut another section. Again, roll that up. Now let's flatten it a little bit because it's going to be a flap. When you're peeling this off of there, now we can cut that into a nice square. So always save your extra pieces because you can just squish them back in. Okay, we should have a square that looks something like that. It doesn't have to be perfect. And again, we're going to cut that in half. Half for the front, half for the back. So figure out where the face of your minion should be. Here, whichever looks like the most round and nice. I kind of like this part right here for myself, okay? So we're just going to add it in. You want to leave enough space up in here for his mouth. So you want to make sure you don't want to place this too far up like that, because then you won't have enough space for his mouth and his eyes. So let's keep it down there. It just depends on what you're doing. And Stuart also has quite a lot of work there. Stuart might be a good option because you only have to sculpt one eye instead of doing two eyes for Bob and Kevin, okay? This bottom part you just blend in. You can either use your thumb, or if you want to use the back part of this knife tool, just use that. I like to leave a little bit of this overlap to sort of show that the coveralls are going in like this. And if the curve isn't quite nice, you can just take your tool and just accent it like that. And do the same for the back. Okay, I know what you're probably thinking, that we need some straps on there, but we're going to do that a little bit later. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on his shoes. So this time we're going to need some black. Again, we just take a quarter. We half that, and then we half it again, and then one last time we half it like this, because their shoes are not very big. And that's going to be more than enough for two shoes. Okay? So we start sculpting them. Make a round ball if you like. And then take your round ball and just kind of squish it into something that looks like a bean. And this is going to be a right foot. Let's just take our thumb and kind of bend that in like this. You can sort of see how that's shaping into a right foot. And we'll do the same thing for the left. Do a circle. Pinch into sort of more of a bean shape. This is going to be a left foot, so let's press this in. You sort of see how those are kind of like lefts and rights. Okay. Now if you look at a minion, you have these tiny wee little legs. Now with clay, these tiny little legs will be supporting all this weight of the clay. So it's kind of important that we make them a little bit thicker so it supports the weight of the sculpture. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of this blue clay. Again, first let's wipe our hands because we've just been working with black. Put this all back together. Squish it together. If you want, go back to a ball. We're going to cut that in half. And cut this in half again. And let's cut this in half as well, okay? Now what we want to do is roll those into like a cylinder. Roll it with your finger. Turns out like this. And then just squish them. I think something like this is a good size. It's probably larger than what we need. Actually it is. So let's cut that in half. This will be both his legs. You can give this one to your partner if you like. It's important that you have symmetry. Okay, now what we can do is we can place their shoes. If you want, you can detail your shoes a little bit. Give them a little bit of a line to sort of show the sole of the foot. And this is the part that's optional. You don't have to do this if you don't want, but it'll help the legs stay on. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to take a paper clip and I put on my safety glasses. And you can ask me to do this for you if you like. Get these cutters. And you want it to, we're going to put this pin in so that it kind of creates a base. So it kind of goes up to the middle of the sculpture right there. This will just help the legs sort of staying together and give it more stability. Then you just poke that all the way in. Smooth it over. And don't worry about the metal heating up in the kiln when we're cooking them. It'll be okay. Let me get another one. I like to avoid this curved piece, so you'll just cut that off. Make sure it gets into the trash can. They don't have to be exactly the same size. It's a little bit sharp to press with your finger, so use a tool to help you push it in. And you can sort of see it in the middle there. Just take your tool, ever so slightly covered up. Okay? And there. Now he's standing. Okay? If you've kind of squished your clay, you can always sort of push it back a little bit. Now we're going to start working on the eyes and the mouth. Okay? Wipe up our tools in our hands. You're not going to need a whole lot. This is half of the white that I used from before when I cut the blue up. I would say half of that, half again. You're just not going to need a whole lot of white. This is probably enough for 2 eyes. So I halved it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. This will be the 5th time. Alright. Again, we can make a circle out of that. And the reason why we're halving things is because that's an easy way to keep your clay symmetrical and proportionate. And I'm simply just going to take my finger and I'm going to press them down. Often the clay sticks to your finger, so just gently, ever so gently, just pop it off. Okay? Close to the same size, but I think this one needs a little bit more squishing down. And how'd I do? Pretty close, right? So now we have to look at their eyes. Let's have a look at, well, Stuart's eye is a good one because you can sort of see it a bit better. There's a little bit of brown in there. Do you see that? Lucky for us, we've got a little bit of brown. But you're going to need ever so the smallest little slice of brown. Just a tiny slice. Half of the tiny slice, half of the tiny slice. We're going to just need the very tiny amount of this. Okay, again, make it a ball. Now this time if it sticks to your finger, that's a good thing. Because that's what you want to do. Get it stuck to your finger. Place it down on the center of the eye. They'll stick together, so ever so carefully you remove it. That's looking like a good size for his eye. See that? A little bit more pressure just to even it out a bit. Now we just need the tiniest little speck of black. Try and make them look symmetrical. That one's a little bit bigger, so I'll keep squishing this guy down a little bit. Just a little bit of pressure. That's pretty close, okay? So now we're slicing our black. Ball that up. Let it stick to your finger. And put that on top of the brown. This is your pupil. Now minions are cute, okay? So you got a little bit of brown in there, you got the black part of the pupil. But because they're cute, what you want to do with the eyes is make them very adorable by adding this highlight. Can you sort of see how there's a little bit of a highlight, a twinkle in their eye? And that's with white. Again, we just want the tiniest amount of white. So I think this is where we were with the black, and we probably want half of that amount. Just a tiniest little speck of white. Okay, it's definitely stuck to my tool, so I'll just peel it off like that. Roll that into the tiniest of little balls. And hopefully it can stick to my finger, not my thumb. Oh, look at that. And we're aiming for the same top left. Because if you put it cross-eyed or on opposite sides, it's going to make the minion seem a bit silly. Okay. I kind of flattened it into an oval. Okay. And where did the tool go? That's right here. Again, I got it stuck to my finger, which is good. I'm aiming for the top left-hand corner. The other eye sticks to my fingers. Okay, now let's make his goggles. So we're going to need a little bit of black. And find an equal amount of white. You want 50-50 to make gray. We're going to make his goggles gray. Looks pretty close. Let's blend that together. Looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Okay, so we've got our gray and we've rolled it into a ball. Okay, I'm just kind of pressing it down a little bit. Getting ready for the roller. This is going to be the goggle. Okay, so now we're going to square this thing up so it looks sort of like that. Okay, so we have a square that looks sort of like this. Now we need to think about the height. How tall do we want these goggles to be? We want them to kind of come just past here, so it looks like it's going to be about this high. I'll show you when I cut it. Just have those ready. Okay, we're going to build them on the actual sculpture. It's nice to have some of this extra little clay laying around. Let's work on his mouth. You can do the mouth in a lot of different ways. You can do the mouth open. This is going to take the most time. Like this. You can do a little, something like that to make it kind of fun, the expression. Or what I did was just something like a smile. So let me show you the easiest way first, okay? So you take a tiny piece of your black. This is obviously a lot more than I need, so I'm going to cut that. Get that stuck to my finger. And then we got to work on his expression. Right now, just the way I put it on, there's a bit of a frown, so let's just bend that up and press it down and bring this guy up so he's a bit more of a smile. That's pretty easy, right? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try for a happy face smile. So what I'm going to actually use is this part of my tool, and I'm just going to sort of compress that in. Okay, now the inside of his mouth is kind of reddish black. So let's get just a wee little bit of red. And when you work with red, you really got to wash your hands, because this stuff, the dye in this red stuff here just gets everywhere. Look at how it just stains my paper so quickly, right? So ever so slightly, the smallest pinch of red. And let's mix it with some black. I just kind of pulled that off as I had excess right there. Then we'll just tuck it in. Let's put on some little tiny teeth, a row of teeth. Again, stick it to your finger. Now it looks like he has lips, and minions don't have lips, so what we do is we just flatten this out. So make sure you don't have any red on there, otherwise you got to start all over again. Alright, now the eyes. They're kind of towards the top of his head. Before I match them up there like that, I'm going to try and put the gray stuff around his eyes so they can go closer together, okay? So watch this. I'll do one eye at a time. Can you see how I'm lining this up? Can you see how I'm kind of wrapping that around like that? Or you get a partner to help you if you want with the eyes. The thickness is much better. Way happier with the thickness of the goggles here. The eyes are tricky, so if you don't want to do Kevin or Bob, go with Stuart. That way you only have to do one. Okay, to save time in this video, I have made an executive decision to turn my Kevin into Stuart. And I'm happier with that. Because now I'm almost done. I don't have to do that again. I'm just trying to tap the goggle on there a bit better and more round. Okay. Next part's pretty easy. Take a little bit of black clay and roll this guy into the strap that's going to go around his head. And take one end and attach it there. And just let that kind of go straight around his head. And just cut that off right here. Tidy this up, or else maybe just take another little bit of black. I have a lot of this silver stuff, or not silver, but the gray stuff left over. So what I'm going to do is sometimes, you can't see it on the side of their goggle, but they have these little kind of goggle parts. So what I'll do is I'll just take a piece like this, cut it square, cut that in half, and just put it on the side of their goggle. And just put that right in here. Maybe a little bit large, but I think it's okay. And then you got to do the same thing to this other side here too. I can sort of see his eye in through there. I'm going to try and touch that up later if I like. So, almost finished with our Stuart. We just got to do the arms. Get a little bit of yellow. Now, their arms are really thin, so the only thing you can really do without using wire, make them a little bit thicker than what they actually are. You want to make sure that your arms are symmetrical, the same length, okay? Let's just sort of see if I guess that right as far as his arm's going to be. I could probably cut that off a little bit. Line it back up here so the arms are the same length. Let's do some hands. Just a pinch like this, and cut that in half for hands. Make it a ball. Now Minions have 3 fingers and all that sort of stuff, but this is too small of a scale to really try and attempt that. I mean, you can if you want, but I'm going to make this flat piece like that, and I'm just going to wrap it around the bottom part of his arm. Squeeze it together. Not perfect, but it'll do, okay? And you take this right in here. You want his arm placement to be right about as high as his mouth. And just take your finger and sort of press that into his shoulder, or you can use this part of the tool if you want. Press that in, smooth it in. Okay, then his hands like this. Do the same for the opposite side. Now you want to make sure that it's in the same placement. Right in the middle, on this side right here, about mouth height. So before you press it down, just have a look to see if you've got it. And move that back just a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'll put his hand in here. Tuck it in there. If you wanted your arm to be waving hello or something like that, you would have to get some more wire, you know, and poke it through. But I don't have time for that right now. And this is just your formative build. Now you got his arms, and all you need to do is do some straps. So back to the blue clay that we had from before. When it gets long like that, it starts to go all over the place. What I do is I cut that in half. For a shoulder strap, let's put that right on top like this. For his coveralls, you see that? Over his shoulder and down to the back part of his coveralls, which I've by accidentally got some black on. Okay, we can just cut this off, blend that in a little bit. Take his other one. Cut that off right about there. Blend it in. Take a little bit of leftover blue if you like. Roll it out about that big. Let's make his pocket. They always have a little pocket at the front. Blend that down. And then I think the last thing we're going to do is take a little bit of black left over and make some buttons. Roll that out. Chop it in half. Roll it on your finger. Get it stuck to your finger. Voila. We're done.